My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate. And as a lot of you know, I do cover the South Central Alaska area for Keller Williams, and I don't really cover the Willow and the Talkeetna area. And help me with a market update for what's going on over there. I brought in my friend and colleague, Ken Hagler, who does cover that area, to really talk about what's going on in the real estate market. I sure hope you do find it useful, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out in the link down below that mentions how to get in contact. But do enjoy, and do get in contact if you have any questions.
Hi, this is Ken Hagler from Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate Dreammakers out of Wasilla, Alaska, and just excited to be a part of this Trailblazer project. As we look at different properties from around the state, my focus is going to be on the properties, and this is set in the north area. So that's primarily from Willow to Talkeetna. There's other properties in that area, so if there's other areas that you'd like information on the future, let us know. But those are the two biggest areas that we're going to be looking at. We're going to start by looking at the homes and cabins that have been sold and are on the market. And as we look at what's been going on in that area, we look at our first chart, and what we're going to find out is that back in December, we had 42 homes on the market. In January, we had 36 homes on the market. And while that's down, that's not necessarily off when we look at the history of homes on the market in our inventory during that time. Some folks have taken them off because one of the unique things, as we'll talk about in the next section related to homes, is the remoteness and trying to get onto properties and look at them. If roads and driveways haven't been cleared, there could be up to 36 inches of snow on some of those areas that are maybe back in the woods just a little bit. And as we look at the inventory over our pandemic levels, this is higher than what it was during the pandemic. It is down from where our pre-pandemic levels were for sure. And there's probably some different reasons of that, theories that we could probably come up with. I think some people are kind of holding on to things, but also during these months, people will take things off the market waiting for the weather to get better, and things will melt, and we'll be able to take a little bit better look at some of those homes and being able to tour and do open houses after that time. When we look at the number of units that have been sold, we can look back at December. We had 7 units sold, which is not atypical for that time of year. It's not a large number. But then we'll look at January and we'll see that we only had 2 sold. Now, initially, that might surprise you and go, oh my gosh, what's going on? Well, looking back at the history during the pandemic levels, a few more properties were sold during those years, but pre-pandemic, 2 properties is actually a pretty consistent number. And again, going back to getting access to homes and being able to do inspections during that time really kind of challenges our access. That also then will affect how I think our average price is going to be in that area. When we look at the average sale price for last month, it was $280,000. But during the pandemic levels, we were looking at 2022 was $235,960, and then $234 in 2022. And those are all highs. Those are up from what, when we look back at pre-pandemic, those are all up. And while we're looking at 280, and that seems like a huge number, we did only have 2 homes sold. So that doesn't necessarily give us a great picture as to how the rest of the year is going to go, but it does give us a point to start with. At the beginning of the year, some of the higher priced properties were moving at that point. And so when we look ahead, we'll be able to look back and see how that starts to average out compared to the years past. We're going to turn our attention now to properties that do not have a cabin or a home on them. Now, in order to kind of make some distinctions there, I think it's important that there are remote properties that are going to require you to have something other than a car or truck to access them. An airplane or a boat or a snow machine or an ATV is going to be your primary mode of transportation. People have a different parking space and offload and go up to their properties. And those are certainly remote. They likely may or may not have a well or electric, not going to be common there. And then there are properties that are on the road system, properties that are still in the wilderness. They may not have a well, they may not have electricity running to them, they might. But they are on the road system and you can access them by traditionally a car or a truck. It's a lot easier to build on, and you can get different things back there to do. So in this report for this month, we're not going to make that designation. That's going to take a little bit more work. Those numbers aren't as readily available for us to look at. So when we look at that back last month in December of 2022, we had 137 properties. In January, we had 130. So there was a little bit of drop there. There were some properties that were sold and some that we'll find that went off the market. And as we look back at that, and they come with similar things in terms of how we look at people getting back to those properties. They can be more difficult to. When we look at our numbers in the past years, yes, these numbers are down. Even from our pandemic numbers, this number is one of our lowest numbers that we can see. I think it may be our lowest numbers. There has certainly been upwards of over 200 properties. And I think that has to do with a lot of people holding on to property right now at this time, though there is a lot of interest in the properties that are available. Looking back, we can see that back in December, we had 9 units sold. In January, we had 8 units sold. The history is these are numbers that are actually increased. Traditionally, again, pre-pandemic, there wasn't a lot of properties that moved during January, but during the pandemic, we saw in January last year 11 properties sold and 9 properties before that. So there is some movement on property when it comes to even the winter months here in Alaska. People are getting out. I think that probably has to do with the fact that buying raw land, you can get on that property. You don't have to worry about getting an inspection. You're not worried about the units and buildings that might be on that property. As you're looking at buying, you can look at pictures more or drive out there, which I've had the opportunity to talk to some folks that are doing that and just driving by and looking at property and making decisions on those types of things. So finally, we look at the average sale price. Average sale price in the Susitna North area in 2023, those properties that sold averaged about $47,562, which is down about $10,000 from last year's average of $57,567. So again, it's kind of hard to see what is that going to tell us about the whole year, but we definitely know that some of the lower price properties are moving. Right now, people are interested and are exploring what is on the market and picking up some of those properties. So that's something to be on the lookout for. There are a number of properties that are for sale by owner out in that area that don't necessarily always show up in our records and our data. So something to be aware of as well. So thanks for tuning in to the Trailblazer Project, and I hope this has been helpful for you and you've had a chance to learn some things. If you do have questions for me that I can help answer or some areas that you'd like me to research a little bit more, I'll be happy to do that before we get back together again next month. See y'all later.